What is up, guys? Now, before you get knee-deep into this Project Boro preview show, I just want to point you towards an episode that I did over the international break with my good buddy Chris, because there has been an episode of Project Boro between the last international break and the return of the championship. We sat down for a good hour discussing Boro's start to the season, Boro's squad, outstanding performers, as well as our predictions, hopes and expectations for the season going forward. So if you've got some time aside and you want to listen to extended Project Boro with me and my good buddy Chris, please go and check out the latest episode of Project Boro, which is of course right here on the YouTube channel or on the podcast providers. Well, we finally made it after the third and final horrendously dull, boring and pointless international break. We are back with club football, back with the Boro, and we're back for the foreseeable 4 months of non-stop championship football to come, non-stop episodes of Project Boro. So let's get started with the preview of Boro's return fixture this weekend down at Oxford. So, Oxford United, a team I've always liked, a team I've always had an incredible soft spot for. Part of that is down to the fact I had an absolutely tremendous Football Manager save with them a few years ago. But I love an underdog, and what Oxford have done, not only this season, but last season, has been absolutely amazing. The job Des Buckingham has done there has been fantastic. Getting them into the playoffs, sneaking them into the playoffs at the end of last season, and getting them through what was an incredibly competitive playoff 4 in League One, beating Bolton in the playoff final in what was a fantastic tactical masterclass from Buckingham and his side. And I think he got Oxford up with only 77 points. I think their points tally in League One is one of the lowest for a team to get promoted. You'd think if that was the case, going into the Championship would be tough, and they'd be the whipping boys, and out of the three newly promoted teams, they'd be the one that probably struggled to adapt the most with a weaker squad and all these other variables you sort of assume with football and promotion and relegation. But Oxford have done really, really well. They've done such a great, respectable job in the Championship thus far. They currently sit 16th, and although you might say, well, that's nothing special, they're not doing an Ipswich, they're not banging the door on the playoffs, that was never the expectation. For Oxford, it's all a case of, I think, just staying in the Championship, surviving, and they've been so competitive thus far. They've stood their own ground. They've got points off some really, really good teams and don't look out of place at all. And albeit they're not the best performing of the three newly promoted teams, Derby have that accolade currently. Oxford have done so well, proven so many people wrong, and deserve so much credit for that. So they started the season, they've won 4 games of their opening 15. It's pretty standard, you know. They've drawn as many as they've won, they've lost as many as they've drew, they've conceded as many as what they've scored. You know, 4 wins, 5 draws, 6 defeats, scoring 17, conceding 18. It's a standard, solid, mediocre start, but a good one for Oxford, you would say. However, the one big caveat, and I guess the one big warning that Boro fans have to take into massive consideration, is that Oxford's home form has been absolutely sensational. Of the 17 points that Oxford have picked up so far this season, 15 of them have come at the Kazam. So, yeah, only 2 points on the road. That's a worry, obviously. But 15 points of their 17 have come at home. That is an unbelievable turnaround. And their home form, it's near playoff form in the Championship. It's better home form than what we've produced. And it's actually a really, really good league for home form this season. You know, Leeds are up there. They've only lost once at home. Sheffield United, Watford, Sunderland, unbeaten at home, as are Burnley. You know, Millwall and Blackburn have been good at home. There are some outstanding home teams this season in the Championship, and Oxford are right up there with them. They've won half of their home games, they've lost only once, and they've scored twice as many goals at home as to what they've conceded, scoring 10 and conceding only 5. So their home form deserves immense credit. Their only loss come against Swansea, which wasn't the last home game, it was the home game before. They have since bounced back and beaten Hull at the Kazam as well. And Hull aren't the only side who've went there and come away with next to nothing. They got a big win at home to Norwich early on in the season. Might have been the opening weekend, actually beating Norwich 2-0. They've beaten Preston at home, something we didn't manage. They've beaten Stoke at home. They got a point off Burnley at home. Burnley didn't even score when they went to the Kazam. They got a point off West Brom, drawing 1-1 with them at the Kazam as well. So this is not an easy place to go, and is not a ground or an away trip that Boro should underestimate at all. They're a very, very good home side. As for their numbers, though, in other areas and their statistical numbers, it sort of represents where they are in the league. You know, they're not the worst, they're not doing anything all that special either, but I think that's okay for Oxford. You know, at the moment, they're 15th for goals scored in the Championship, so once again, they're not in the top half, they're not in the bottom three, they're just okay, scoring 17 goals so far this season. The 19th for expected goals as well, with 15.9. So again, they're in and around the bottom end of the table, hovering above the sort of bottom 3 or 4 teams. So 15.9 XG, they've overperformed that slightly with the 17 goals, but they've converted pretty much the majority, if not all, of the chances they should have put away, looking at their numbers. And then 19th for shots on target as well. So once again, they don't have as many shots on target as most teams in the league, but they aren't the worst once again. An interesting number, though, is the number of big chances they have. So despite their low XG and their low number of shots on target, they're 9th for big chances. They've had 30 big chances in the Championship so far, and they're 6th for big chances missed with 21. So even if they don't create all that much, they still do muster big chances when they do create them, and they are also quite wasteful as well. Now defensively, it's also quite interesting, because this is where I think they've been maybe a little bit more impressive than you'd expect. You know, they're down there-ish going forwards, but defensively, not too bad. They're 10th for goals against, so they've conceded just over a goal a game. So they're sitting pretty much in mid-table for the number of goals they've conceded, which I think is quite impressive for a team who've just come up into the Championship, albeit their XG against is 6th. So they're up there with the team who maybe give away the biggest quality of chances in the league, but they've not been punished for it, because the goals they've conceded are far less than the chances that they've conceded, and their goalkeeper might be to thank for that, because their goalkeeper is up there with some of the most saves per game in the league. Their goalkeeper is 4th for saves per game with around 3.4. So Oxford, I think it's safe to say, going forward, they're all right, not the best. Defensively, maybe they've not conceded as many as they should, but their goalkeeper is quite busy in games, which is probably going to be the case against Boro. In terms of their style and how they like to play football, I'll get into their formation and their team in a little bit, because that is a little bit of an unknown for me when looking into it. But looking at just their numbers, stylistically, they're 17th for accurate passes in the league and 5th for long balls, which tells me they're a pretty direct team, and they're also 22nd for accurate crosses, meaning they don't really get the ball in very successfully from either side. I don't know if that's something they actively try and do, or maybe they use inverted wingers and they come inside and a lot of their attacks are filtered through the middle. But yeah, they come across like a very direct team, very high on long balls, very low on accurate passes, and very, very low on accurate crosses. They're also a very low possession-based team. They're 20th in the Championship for possession, averaging around 45% per game. So, yeah, they're very, very low in terms of possession numbers. They're the lowest team in the league for touches in the opposition's box. So, I get the gist that they're a very direct team. And whether they do try and get the ball in the box from wide areas, whether they try and do it directly through the centre, Boro's defence, I think, are going to have to be up for a very physical battle, and they're going to have to defend their box still very, very well, albeit the ball might not be in the box as often as it would be against other teams. Looking at their formation, though, it's very difficult to judge what they might do, because it's changed quite a bit over the last few games, according to FootMob at least. You know, last time out against Watford, they utilised a 3-4-2-1 on the road, but in their last home game that they won over Hull, they played a 4-2-3-1, which would very much match up Boro's formation. However, in the other two home games before that, they put in a 4-1-4-1, so I can't quite put my number on what formation Oxford are going to utilise. Are they going to look at doing a similar 4-2-3-1, which They, of course, played against Hull in their last home win, or are they going to do a 4-1-4-1, which they've done in a few of their other home games? I honestly don't know. Maybe it comes down to the opposition. Maybe it comes down to personnel. But talking of personnel, a few of their players to look out for. Now, in terms of the numbers, Mark Harris is their top goal scorer still with 4 goals. He's up there for goal contributions as well with 4. But a lot of them did come at the start of the season when he just come out the blocks like an absolute house on fire. The striker we are probably best keeping our eye out for is Dane Scarlett, who's come in over the last few games for Oxford and has done really, really well. He's got 3 goals in his recent appearances and actually has the highest goals per 90 in the Oxford team with 0.7. So he's come in recently, he's stepped in for Mark Harris exceptionally well, and has definitely gotten a good few goals for his work as well. So he's a player who's arguably in form and has done really well up front for Oxford recently. And in terms of other players who I just like the look of, you can't look past Ruben Rodriguez, who is joint highest for assists for Oxford this season. To be fair, they have shared the assists around a little bit. He's joint top with 2, but he is joint top as well with Mark Harris for goal contributions with 4. He's got 2 goals and 2 assists in the league this season. Another player who I really like is Tyler Goodrum, a fantastic, tricky player. He's a player who seems like he can go one way or the other. He can play sort of in behind Dane Scarlett as a sort of attacking midfielder. Him and Rodriguez can kind of pair up as 2 10s. He can also play on either side. He can be an inverted winger. He can also play as a more out-and-out winger. And he's also got an incredible strike on him as well. So the front 3, I certainly feel like, could provide Boro with some problems. Dane Scarlett, Rodriguez, Goodrum, and possibly Mark Harris if he comes in as well. As for the Boro 11, if you're an Oxford fan listening to this is where you could quite pull a number of positives, because not only do Boro have a lot of players away on internationals, we've also picked up a few really worrying injuries while they've been away too. So I think the back 5, there's a strong chance that could go back to what it was previously and regularly. It all depends on where Neto Borges is in terms of the illness he had or potential injury he had that was keeping him out of the team prior to the international break. But I think if there is a chance that he'll come back in, having a more more natural left-sided player at left-back, I think that probably will happen, moving Luke Ayling back onto his natural right-hand side. I think Clark and Edmondson will continue to be the centre-back pairing. I don't think Rav Vandenberg will be back yet, and Dale Fry's probably not up to speed yet either. Lenihan, who the hell knows where he is. The big worry, though, for Boro is in our central midfield positions, because not one, but both of our pivotal star central midfielders have picked up injuries over the international break. One might be okay, the other is a ginormous worry for me, and that, firstly, is Aidan Morris, who has apparently sprained his knee while in training for the USA, and that I can't tell you how big of a blow that's going to be for Boro. You know, he's been one of our most consistent, solid performers, arguably signing of the summer in terms of permanent signings, and to have him missing for what could be 4, 5, 6 weeks, we don't know the severity of this knee sprain. It's such a worry. And, you know, not only is that a bad injury, it's bad timing, because Boro have got so many games coming up thick and fast, and a player in the engine room with the stamina, the physicality, the ability to play week in, week out that Aidan Morris can provide. He is an absolute warrior. How he plays so many minutes and how he does it so well, he just doesn't stop running. He doesn't stop. His engine, his stamina, it's fantastic. He'd be perfect for this upcoming run of games, and to have him missing, such a huge blow. But it's not only him, his midfield partner Hayden Hackney has also picked up an injury. He's apparently, I don't know if he's rolled his ankle or what, we're not too sure what that injury is, but he's picked up an injury with the England under-21s in training as well. And although we're hoping that is not as severe as the Morris injury, I wouldn't be surprised to see him out the team, knowing how cautious Michael Carrick is with bringing back players. We might be seeing a completely new look midfield in the next game and maybe the next couple of weeks for Boro, and that's such a huge blow. You know, for me, the partnerships, the spine of the team is so important, you know, for consistency, for the style that Boro play, Hackney and Morris, I can't tell you how pivotal they are to everything Boro do, connecting the defence to the attack, and to have them both out is beyond damaging. So listen, it's an opportunity for Johnny Howson, it's an opportunity for Dan Barlaser. I'm not going to beat around the bush. The drop off in quality is there. It is significant. Although I rate Barlaser, in certain games, and the same for Johnny Howson. They're going to be the two centre midfielders who might have to play 3 games in a week. And for Johnny Howson, especially as a 36-year-old, that's going to be really, really tough. So yeah, Boro's midfield has took a ginormous blow, and I'm praying Morris's injury is nowhere near as severe as it possibly might be. So there you go, Oxford. There's a huge bit of optimism for you guys to cling on to and take into this one. As for Boro's attacking four, though, I'm hoping that is going to be as potent and dangerous as ever. A lot of them, though, have been away on international duty. McGree has been all over Asia with Australia and often doesn't start either side of an international break because of the miles that he does for Australia. So again, I'd be surprised to see him come straight back in to starting, as much as I've said time and time again, he has to start when fit. I know what Michael Carrick's like, and I wouldn't be surprised if Riley McGree doesn't get back until Thursday. I think he's playing in Bahrain on Tuesday. He's going to have 1 day of training max on Friday before they travel down to Oxford, maybe early Saturday. I just don't think there's going to be enough time for him to get right back into this Boro team, so that's why I've put sort of slash Bergzorg on the left, because Bergzorg had such a fantastic game against Luton just before the international break. Finn Azaz has also been away with Ireland. I've got no doubts he'll start in the 10. Of course, he had that outstanding game against Luton last time out, arguably his best in a Boro shirt, so I'd love to see him come straight back in from where he took off. And Ben Doak, well, what more can I say? I think Oxford fans have probably seen a little bit more of Ben Doak than maybe they even thought, because this kid has been everywhere over the international break. He's getting plaudits from everyone, everywhere, and it's safe to say the world has discovered Ben Doak, and that's down to his incredible performances for Scotland over the international break. There's a clip going around on social media where he sent Manchester City's £80 million left back Gvardiol for an absolute hot dog. He nutmegged him, went around the touchline, shrugged him off the ball, done him for pace. Honestly, Ben Doak is a sensation, and all I kept seeing were him getting assists, destroying fullbacks for Scotland. This is at an international level, by the way, and he's 18 years old. I just feel more and more lucky every single day that he is a player currently playing for Middlesbrough Football Club, because I am, without doubt, in a year or two's time, we're going to be looking back and thinking, how on earth did we have Ben Doak at this football club? He wouldn't look out of place in the Premier League. He honestly wouldn't. If he was loaned to a Premier League side, he would be doing exactly what he's doing right now to Premier League fullbacks. He just happens to be doing it in the Championship. He's the definition of a Championship cheat code, and to any team in this league, it doesn't matter who you are, Leeds United, Sheffield United, Sunderland, West Brom, Burnley, Oxford, Portsmouth, Derby, top to bottom, doesn't matter where you are in the league, your left back should be terrified, because Ben Doak is a superstar. He's above this league, and if he stays at Boro for the entirety of this season, he genuinely could be the cheat code that just wins us games and pulls us out of moments where we're maybe struggling to break a team down. He could beat one, beat two, put a ball in the box. He could be the difference maker. And yeah, if he's starting, which I hope he is, watch out. That's all I've got to say. And the striker's a difficult one because, yeah, Latif had a fantastic game prior to the international break as well. Tommy Conway's been away with Scotland, so I don't know if that'll play into Michael Carrick's thought process. I think Latif might have even been away as well, to be fair, with his home nation too. So it could be a toss-up between the two. I said on the channel when I discussed the Boro team with Chris, when I did a long Project Boro cast, which I mentioned at the start of the show, in the middle of the international break, the question of Latif versus Conway could just come down to the type of game it is. You know, if you're wanting a forward to press and hustle and harry and get in behind, that could be Latif. If you're wanting a striker to connect the play and combine with his central attacking midfielders and wingers, then that could be Tommy Conway. So listen, I've put Latif in there for now, but it genuinely could be either. It could be an absolute flip of a coin. So that's the Boro team. Could be good in some areas. The front four might still look incredibly threatening. The midfield pairing is a ginormous concern. And that takes me on to the head-to-head. because there isn't any. The last competitive meeting between Boro and Oxford was May 1998. So there is nothing to read into in terms of recent meetings between these two unless it's been in the Cup or pre-season. So we will jump straight into my prediction. Now, I'm not going to, as I say, underestimate Oxford's fantastic home form. And as I mentioned, they score quite frequently at home. They don't concede many. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for Boro, and we might have to weather an early storm. I think there's certainly going to be periods in the game where we're going to be under the cosh. But Boro have been quite good on the road this season, especially of late. We scored 3 at Norwich. We got 4 at QPR. Pairing that with the 5 we got at home to Luton. This is a team who are finally scoring goals for fun. So I can't say Boro aren't going to score here, and they might score a canny few as well. But I also fancy Oxford to probably score from somewhere as well. But I am going to back the boys. I am going to back Boro. Listen, no disrespect to Oxford. I've been more than complimentary to them in this preview. But for me, if you are wanting to get promoted, get playoffs, you've got to be going to places like Oxford and picking up 3 points. So I'm going to back the boys to do that and get a third win on the bounce. But I cannot stress, and I mentioned this again in the video I did with Chris, this is a huge game for us, because I feel like this game will set the tone for the next run of games in the Championship for Boro. You know, if we were to drop points here, I think we'd revert back to where we were before, which is a very inconsistent up and down side that just can't quite do enough to get into the top 6. Whereas if we pick up a win here, we've picked up from where we've left off. We've not allowed the international break to, get in the way of our flow. And then we've won three on the bounce, and we go into then 2 back-to-back home games with a great open opportunity to possibly win 4 or even 5 games in a row, which would be absolutely amazing and is the sort of run that we've needed and the sort of run that could propel us right into the top 6 and maybe on the back of the top 2. So this is a huge game for Boro, a pivotal game that could kickstart this very important block of games in the perfect way. So let me know your thoughts on this game in the comment section below, whether you're an Oxford fan, Boro fan, neutral, your thoughts on both teams, your thoughts on both squads, and of course, most importantly, your predictions for this game in the comment section below. But until then, if you've enjoyed it, do hit a like on the video and subscribe. We, of course, preview every Boro game here on the channel, and we also drop these onto the podcast providers as well. So if you want to listen to these on the go instead of listening or watching on YouTube, then go onto your podcast provider. You'll find these episodes over there. All links are in the description. And as I say, subscribe to the channel, comment below with your thoughts, and I'll be back later on in the week to predict the weekend's round of Championship fixtures. And of course, I'll be back on the weekend to review whatever happens down at the Kazan. But until then, do take care, guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.